bunch of extra information because I like for everyone to have the whole picture when we're talking about this. 1A asks for the second heart sound. So I'm just going to show you where the two heart sounds are so that you have a reference for this. The first heart sound would happen here between Q and R. So in that section Q to R where the line goes up, this is where you're hearing the first sound. The second sound happens at T. So the answer to A is T. So we're hearing first and second heart sounds. First and then second. The first sound is when the bicuspid and the tricuspid valves close. The second sound is when the semilunar valves close. Now B is asking when the SA node stimulates the atria to contract. So you have to ask yourself, what happens first? Do the atria contract first, or do the ventricles? And if you remember that the SA node is the pacemaker, it happens first. Once it's stimulated, then the AV node can stimulate the ventricles. So P is when the SA node stimulates the atria to contract. Now C, I already alluded to when we're talking about when semilunar valves close. So you have to ask yourself, what are those valves? Those are the valves between ventricles and arteries. That happens after the other valves, the bicuspid and tricuspid valves. And valves closing and heart sounds go together. So when the first heart sound is made, that's when your cuspid valves, bicuspid and tricuspid valves close. Second heart sound is the semilunar valves. So that means that T is the answer for C. And then lastly, when systolic blood pressure would be measured. Systolic is the top number. It's the bigger number, the higher number. Systolic is when your heart is contracting. Specifically, when ventricles are pushing blood out of your heart. That is when systolic blood pressure is measured. So systolic blood pressure would be measured somewhere in here. Between Q and R and S is the beginning and end of ventricle stimulation. So I don't think I would be able to specify exactly when we would measure, as long as you put something between Q, R, and S, that is when systolic blood pressure is measured, because that is when the ventricles are contracting. Now there are 4 things, so let's make number 1 be out of 4. Number 2 will just be out of 1. All you had to do was take the 2 numbers and multiply them together. Cardiac output means how much blood is pumped every time your heart beats. And pulse is how many beats per minute occur. So in 1 minute, I would do 60 milliliters times 50 beats per minute, and I would get 3,000 milliliters, or simply 3 liters. Either or would be fine. Okay, so I'm just going to record this as part of the video, so if you happen to need to look back, you know what you need to do. But as you heard yesterday, we are doing a small lab today. And the point of this lab is to give you some experience using the tools that we would use to measure things like your heart rate and your blood pressure. So you're going to be with a group, and with your group, you're going to measure and record your heart rate. And you can do this 2 ways, and I would like you to do it both ways. You can do this by listening with a stethoscope to someone's heartbeat and counting how many times it beats in 10 seconds. Do it that way. I would also like you to use the digital machine just to see if it's different, to see if you get a different value there than you did by counting. So record your heart rate 2 ways. 1, just manually counting, and 2, with the digital blood pressure cuff that will tell you your pulse. Then you are going to measure and record your blood pressure I'll show you how to do this manually, but chances are you are only going to do this digitally because it's quite difficult to do it manually without a lot of practice. The machine will give you a reading. It'll always be systolic over diastolic, so there should be a big number on top, small number on the bottom. So these are just little bits of data that you're going to record. Then you're going to compare your results, so that means show me the other people in your group. So in your group of 3 or 4, make a little table, put everyone's numbers in it. Then explain things that could be causing differences. Yesterday we gave a bunch of factors that could cause differences, things like age and size and lifestyle choices. And so talk to each other, see maybe what's different between you that might help explain the differences between your measurements. Now, there are lots of reasons that could be true, and you don't know for sure that your reason is the reason. You're just giving reasonable explanations based on differences that you notice between you. And then lastly, you are going to go to page 281 of your textbook and complete questions 1 to 7.